Hello and welcome back to another week of the Fantasy Game Plan Show podcast hangout. I still haven't decided what I want to call it, so I'm just going to do that every week. My name is Leo Howell. I'm joined by, as always, Matt Harmon, who probably has a joke about Josh McCown and or Ryan Fitzpatrick to start the show off. How are you doing, Matt?
You can't do that. Then it kind of ruins the
I
effect,
know. I know it ruins.
which is smart of you. But yeah, I will say that I looked at my phone when I got the Bleacher Report alert about Ryan Fitzpatrick or NFL Mobile, one of the two, and there it was. There it was. The news that Ryan Fitzpatrick had been benched for Ryan Mallett. And by the way, I don't even like Ryan Mallett at all. I just thought this was funny that you
Ryan Mallett's not a good football player.
No, not at all. I
Yeah.
totally agree with you. But it was just funny because, of course we had the conversation amongst all the many ones that you've been wrong about, these bold predictions that we have had.
Remind me again what Cordero Patterson is doing.
Hey, remind me again what Sean Green is doing or whatever. I mean, I don't remember.
I just said that Sean Green would score more touchdowns than Cordero Patterson, and I'm pretty sure that's still even.
Yeah, it probably is.
I didn't say that he was like a better football player or a better fantasy option. I just said he'd score more touchdowns, and I think I'm pretty close on that, despite him being benched.
Well, I mean, semantics, but whatever. You said Ryan Fitzpatrick would start for 16 games the whole season, and I said that was crazy, and I was right. So for today, I was right.
But it's not good process. Whatever. Okay. Yeah. It's Bill O'Brien being stubborn because he thinks that Ryan Mallett's a good quarterback.
I don't even know if he thinks Ryan Mallett's a good quarterback as much as just I don't know. I don't even know. I don't want to.
There are
It's
you're
really
a 4-5 team. You run the ball more than any other team in the NFL. Why are you going to go from a 64% completion quarterback to a 53% in the preseason completion quarterback? You're just lowering your efficiency when you do pass the ball. There's so many things wrong with it. If you would have gone to Tom Savage, I could see that because you just invested a draft pick in him and all that. But this screams out I think Ryan Mallett gives us a better chance to win right now. This isn't like a planning for the future move. So that's why I don't like it. But
I mean, we've literally already wasted way too much time talking about this.
No, it's important. Ryan Fitzpatrick is a national treasure, and he's been benched, and we need to talk about it.
All right, this right here is why we're talking about it, because you say these crazy things, and I'm a jerk who can't let it go.
No, I'm just kidding. So yeah, we're back for week 10. Just to recap week 9, I was right about a lot of things last week. You may not believe me, but I actually was. I didn't say any of them on the podcast, apparently, except for Denard Robinson. I did say Denard Robinson, and he did pan out, but our DraftKings lineup was no bueno. But the process was right on some of them, and I guess we'll talk about this just real quick before we go into the rest of the stuff, is that even if you strike out in daily fantasy, you kind of have to assess if your process was right. Or if you just were just wrong in all facets. First of all, our process was partially wrong because we set this lineup on Wednesday night and then didn't change it. I would have changed out Des Bryant when the Tony Romo news came out. Matt would not have, and so since we both set the lineup, that's kind of tough to whatever. But so Des Bryant obviously didn't give us much. Michael Floyd and Mike Wallace were both good calls. Those passing offenses did well, and they got targets. They just didn't convert them into catches and touchdowns. So, Rashard Matthews had a touchdown catch for the Dolphins. That's something he does once a year. So that's just one of those freak occurrences. And I think Wallace dropped a touchdown, right?
I think so.
Yeah. So Le'Veon Bell had just a mediocre game, but that was fine. Andre Holmes. We both just kind of were talking about Andre Holmes last week, and so I think he was on our mind a little too much, and so we went with him. And Julius Thomas didn't really pay off.
No,
what we were looking for, particularly with how good Gronk did, and
it was bad.
Yeah, so not our best week. I mean, Carson Palmer did all right, but. We'll rebound. We'll do better. We will cash one of these weeks. So
We'll see.
it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. We're gonna cash this week. We're gonna cash because unless you screw up this lineup, we're gonna start with like just rock solid picks.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot to like this week. So.
Yes, there is. Which means that everyone's gonna have those picks, and we're gonna be, whatever. We're all gonna suck. But let's move forward. Let's talk about Week 10 of the NFL season. Week 10. That means that like we're getting close to it being over already. But that's fine for me because as a Bucs fan, this season could not end any sooner. Before we get into like our positional previews and the topic we're going to talk about for a little bit this week, let's answer a couple questions. Let's start it off with some questions, and if people are watching, you can ask some questions as well. The first comes from William Carroll on Twitter, bcarroll138, who, if you want to know what anyone's saying at any time on Twitter, you can follow Bill because he's going to tweet what other people are tweeting, retweet what other people are tweeting all the time. Like he is anything about fantasy football, anything about the draft, anything about the NFL. Like he is. If he follows you, you know that he's reading your tweets because he retweets anything that's like remotely interesting. So definitely check him out. He's a great follow. But
Bill is sometimes you'll get that moment where your phone, I'll have to be at work and my phone will like go crazy for a whole minute just blowing up. I'm like, what is going on? And I pull it out. It's like Bill Carroll has favorited and retweeted everything.
Yeah. Yeah. If you go on any sort of rant, like he'll tweet the whole thing. Like he'll retweet the whole thing. So
he's great.
He asked, he's in a 2-quarterback league, and with Romo's injury and Brady on a bye, he is in panic mode. And yeah, that'll happen, particularly in 2-quarterback leagues. That's awful. That's just bad luck and bad timing. So he needs 2 of Kyle Orton, Mark Sanchez, and Josh McCown. Now, let me just tell you, I will be using all 3 of those players in daily fantasy this weekend, and I will not be ashamed of using any of the 3. But I'm interested in your opinion first, and then I will give mine. Picking 2 of those 3, who are you going with?
Honestly, it was pretty easy for me to say Orton and Sanchez. Sanchez has a good matchup. He's in a good offense. I know it's funny. I had a friend from who lives up in Pennsylvania today call me, and he says, Everybody up here is saying that Mark Sanchez is like actually going to be good, and like he might be better than Nick Foles. Like he's like, talk me off the ledge, or he's pretty much just saying, talk me off the ledge about this. But honestly, I think he's going to be all right. Nick Foles was playing. I said it's probably more of an indictment on Foles. I don't think Foles was playing all that well, but they're playing against the Carolina defense, which is terrible, especially against the pass. He should have at least a pretty decent game. And Orton, I know he has probably the least favorable matchup of these 3 this week, but he's been so good. Like, I mean,
it's by far the worst matchup.
Yeah,
it's not even close.
Falcons and the other 2 are playing 2 NFC South teams. That's all you need to know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But Orton's just been good. Like he's actually been playing pretty well. So I don't know. I'm gonna go with Orton. You might go. I see your face. You might go McCown.
I think you know what I'm going to say here.
You're disguised.
I'm going to take the 2 best matchups because these are 3 not very good quarterbacks. But I'm going to take the 2 best matchups, and that means I'm going to have Josh McCown playing at home against the Atlanta Falcons, who have, according to Numberfire, already got the plug-in. The Numberfire drinking game. Take your drink. The worst defense in the NFL and the 3rd worst pass defense. And they've also given up the 16th most points to quarterbacks and the 23rd most points to wide receivers. So they're just a very vulnerable defense in general. And then Mark Sanchez is playing the 23rd overall defense, 20th against the pass, according to Numberfire in Carolina. But they're actually worse in fantasy points. I think there's just more volume because teams don't have to throw as much against the Bucs because they're not competitive, or against the Falcons because of game flow reasons and stuff. So Sanchez is the number 1 there. Like if you're taking this advice and you want to go with Orton instead of McCown, that's fine. Sanchez is the best pick here. that offense is the best. His skill position players are better, particularly with this news that Sammy Watkins is hurt. Like, he's not supposed to be, like, limited, but, like, that's just enough to totally throw me off because without him, like, I don't want any part of the Bills' offense if Sammy's not playing, which is crazy for me to say because I hate Sammy Watkins. But, again, another thing that I'm wrong about, whatever.
That's okay.
But, yeah, Mark Sanchez, like, he's still Mark Sanchez, but the problem with, like, or the kind of thing that doesn't make that matter is that Nick Foles has kind of been playing like good Mark Sanchez all year. Like,
right.
Mark Sanchez's best season, his interception percentage was like 3.8, and Foles' this year has been like 3.5. So he's basically been turning the ball over as often as like good Mark Sanchez. So now we're going to get good Mark Sanchez because he's got a good offensive coach and a good offensive system. And we saw that, like on the touchdown of J-Matt, like he basically just trusted the play call and recognized the coverage and just threw the ball up. And when Mark Sanchez just throws the ball up, he's got the arm talent to put it where it needs to go. So you're going to get 1 or 2 interceptions out of Sanchez, but as long as your league isn't one of those like negative 10 points for interceptions, like just suck it up and roll with him because he's going to get 300 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, and I don't know how much we want to talk about, the psychology of the game and everything, but I think it'll be good for Sanchez to play in a role where everybody's like excited to see him, as opposed to like in New York where he's like, oh my God, Mark Sanchez. I think that'll be good for him to have that sort of confidence and everything.
But like if he like runs into an offensive lineman and fumbles the ball, like that all goes away.
If he could just avoid doing that. The one thing
Evan Mathis is going to be back. He's never played with him before, so maybe he does that with Evan Mathis. Maybe he runs into Evan Mathis.
Yeah, there might not have the face-to-ass communication. Yeah.
Which, speaking of which, Evan Mathis is back. Shady McCoy, all formats, everything ever. You want Shady McCoy wherever you can get him. I think it was, I forget his first name, Summerlin for Roto World, who tweeted all of the McCoys, and that is right. You want all of the McCoys this week, and if you can still trade for him at a low price, do it. Like, go get Shady McCoy now.
Yeah, agree.
Let's keep rolling here with a couple other questions. Michael Stepney, Stepney71 asks, are Cobb and Julio good buy low candidates? Cobb definitely not really a buy low at this point. If you mean Randall, like I can't think of another Cobb that he'd be talking about unless you're talking about college and you're talking about David Cobb, in which case he's really not a buy low either.
Who is that? I don't even know who that is.
He's the Minnesota running back. He's like basically this year's Andre Williams. He scored like 30 touchdowns already.
Gross. I already hate him.
And he's that same kind of guy too, with 3 yards in a cloud of dust. Whatever. In regards to Julio, because Randall Cobb is actually due for some regression in the other direction with his touchdowns. Even though he is more talented than a typical short receiver in the red zone, he is not going to score 9 touchdowns every 8 games or whatever he scored. So he's due for some negative regression, and I wouldn't consider him a buy low. If somebody's like ticked off that Jordy Nelson's had a couple of clunkers in the past few weeks, like that would be a decent buy low. But Julio is a good buy low if someone is not valuing him properly. I actually had somebody tweet me today and say that they received in a trade Shady and Julio, and they gave up Golden Tate and Eddie Lacy. And like, if you can get a deal like that, like that's just, there's nothing wrong with that deal at all. There's no like, you win both of those like by a mile. Like if you can get somebody who's not sold on Julio right now, like you want him because he's going to play all those NFC South games against all those bad NFC South defenses, and he's just getting further removed from his injury and healthier. So like, there's no bad about Julio right now.
Yeah, I agree. I think Julio's a good buy low candidate. You said that really well. This week, starts off with a good matchup right off the bat. So yeah, that's one I like.
The second part of his question was, what would you give up to acquire either one? And this is always tough, but he basically asks, like, would you give up like a running back 2 or a wide receiver 2 or a combination of both? And it really just depends on like what you have a surplus of and what you can afford to give up. But like if somebody's gonna like at this point, running back 2 is kind of relative because there's only like 5 or 6 you could trust on a weekly basis, just full stop. But if somebody's gonna give you like Julio Jones for Joik Bell or Julio Jones for I mean, even Eddie Lacy at this point. Like, I'm just going to take either of those and run with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, for sure. I definitely think that. I mean, yeah, you said it really well. That there's a lot that you could do to get Julio, and I think that some of his owners might be panicking right now. So.
Like, I don't like trading just a wide receiver for another wide receiver unless it's such a huge like. If you've got Golden Tate and you want to offer Golden Tate for Julio Jones, like I'm okay with that because that's a guy who's like obviously at a portion in this season where like he's got the good volume and now it may go down as Calvin comes back. Like I would maybe do that because that's a different circumstance, but like I wouldn't just trade Larry Fitzgerald for just Julio Jones. Like, well, maybe that's too big of a gap. But
I was going to say that seems more.
Maybe that's too big of a gap. But like, I wouldn't just trade my wide receiver 2 for Julio Jones just in a straight up swap. I would try to do a 2 for 2 or do a running back for a wide receiver.
Like I don't know if I would
trade. You're introducing a certain level of risk when you just trade a position for a position that you don't need. Like people who ask me, like somebody offered me Cutler for Russell Wilson, like.
What are you doing? I mean,
is one of them going to be better than the other? Like,
right.
Yeah.
Like, there's a great potential that like it's just a lateral move,
mm-hmm.
And that frustrates. Yeah, that frustrates me because it's like, what's the point?
And you're like I said, you're introducing a certain level of risk that like you don't know something or that you haven't considered all the possibilities or the schedules or whatever. Like, if you really believe in one of the guys, like that's up to you as your team, but. Like, and it's just, there are so many better things you can do in a trade. Like, if you're trading with somebody who's just, like, equally as, like, adept at trading as you, and, like, you're not going to be able to fleece them for, like, 2 players for 1 or whatever, like, maybe you have to settle for something like that. But generally, you want to try to get the best deal you can, and I think that usually involves 2 for 1s in either direction or trading a position for a different position to get surplus and turn it into an area of need.
Yeah, definitely. Especially the 2 for 1. A 1 for 1 swap trades in fantasy always feel, like you're either making like that lateral move or you're taking on too much risk, like you said. I mean, because a lot of these
you're either taking on risk or you're giving up risk.
Yeah.
You're giving up like upside risk in exchange for something safe.
Like especially these buy low guys, like they're buy low guys for a reason. Like you are buying them low, kind of hoping that a trend, even no matter how much of a sure thing you think it is, like you are still kind of inherently hoping that a trend will reverse, and there's always the chance that it just might not. So
yeah, definitely. Let's move on to a couple of these other ones here real quick. We got Tony A _ Arduengo. Sorry if I'm butchering your last name. I probably am. Or your username. It might even be your last name on Twitter. Pretty simple one here. Either or. Beckham Jr. or Jeffrey in a PPR. These are. This one's pretty obvious to me, but obviously there are some people who are pretty down on Alshon at this point and pretty high on ODBJ. So what are your thoughts on Beckham versus Jeffrey this week?
Well, I love Odell Beckham. I love him as a player, and I was really high on him as a prospect. Whatever. But nah, I'm still gonna go with Jeffrey. It's especially in a game with especially this week. If the question's just this week, then yeah, I'm definitely gonna go.
Yeah, if the question is this week, the matchup against Chicago versus the matchup against Seattle, like even though Seattle's been a little leaky in the past game, I'm not trusting Eli Manning to give me anything against the Seattle defense at all.
And just on basic stats, I don't know about like any of your number fire. Now I can take the drink like stats or anything like that. But Green Bay's been pretty good against the past. Like they've been better than they have against the run, but so that's not even necessarily a great matchup. But at least you're hoping that there's going to be a lot of points in that game. So
yeah, basically, Green Bay is actually better against the pass according to number fire.
Yeah,
Seattle's the better overall defense, and in fantasy points against, Seattle blows Green Bay out of the water. It's not even close.
Right.
The Green Bay matchup is way better for fantasy points against because volume, game flow, stuff like that. Like games against Seattle don't turn into shootouts, and when you're in garbage time against them, they're usually pretty efficient. Like they don't give up a lot of garbage time stuff. So
yeah, that makes sense. So yeah, I think definitely Alshon.
like wide receivers against Seattle have scored the fewest points per game so far this season. So even with their kind of leaky pass defense and like Deshaun Jackson and not Andre Holmes, there was some other guy that did well against them, but I don't even remember at this point. And I don't trust Odell Beckham to continue to score touchdowns. I do like him as a relatively decent volume guy in that offense, but I'm just not going to trust him to score touchdowns all the time. So
he's definitely
a much better red zone threat. Larry Donnell is a much better red zone threat.
I don't know. Wait, did you say that again?
Ruben Randall and Larry Donnell are better red zone threats.
No, Ruben Randall's not, but Larry Donnell, yeah, he probably is.
Yeah, we're gonna have continued issues.
Should we have the wide receiver debate that's been so popular on Twitter lately? No, I don't.
Let's not. Hashtag team big receiver. I only like receivers that are as tall, if not taller than me, and I'm 6'3". So.
Oh, same. But that's.
So you only like receivers that are shorter than you?
No, see that's stupid. See, I'm not. I'm on team good receiver.
Team good.
Team good receiver.
There don't need to be teams anyway because I really like Paul Richardson and I still like him.
Right.
I think Davis Maddock would unfollow me if he knew I liked Paul Richardson. But
okay, well, hopefully he doesn't watch the show.
He probably does. Nobody watches this show. Sal didn't actually ask a real question.
I have two. Well, we have one question that came in during the show, and then we have one. I got one over here.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, the one I got is this comes from @JohnHarrington on Twitter, and he asks, "Good idea for me to pick up Rainey for Jennings. I have Lacey and Ingram already. I'm assuming that's Bobby Rainey, obviously, and Rashad Jennings."
Yeah.
Give up. Well, yeah. No, don't pick up Chris Rainey. No. And excuse me, I think I messed it up, but it says, is it a good idea for me to give up Bobby Rainey for Rashad Jennings? And he already has Lacey and Ingram.
Okay, yeah, in that other direction, yes, absolutely.
No, I agree.
Well, maybe not. I don't. The Tampa Bay running back situation is going to continue to be a mess. But, like, Jennings is just probably going to be eased back in with how he's kind of been constantly delayed. So
yeah,
it's almost one of those like a 1-for-1 trade where I'm almost not sure I want to invite that risk. I would definitely pick up Jennings if you have somebody to drop. Like if you've got a second quarterback, kicker, or defense or tight end, like I'd drop them. But I'm not sure if Rainey is the guy I would drop right now.
Yeah, I would probably try to get one more week out of Rainey too, like especially against Atlanta.
If he's going to do anything, it's going to be against a team like Atlanta.
I would probably try to get one more week out of him and then maybe do it, but because it depends on what you need. Like if you need a player to keep you swimming for the next couple weeks, then yeah, I definitely want Rainey. But if you feel good enough about your team. And you're definitely going to the playoffs, then I think, I'm assuming this is a season-long league instead of asking like a DFS, it is, obviously it's a trade. Oh, man. I really shouldn't work out before I come on the show. But anyways, no, so if you want a guy like that's, you're going to go to the playoffs and you want that kind of guy, you want the upside play, then I think you make the trade. But if you're just looking for someone to kind of keep you afloat, you need those wins, then I think you stick with Rainey.
Fair enough. That works for me. And what was your other one? Because then the last one we've got is the one we're going to talk about for just a little longer here.
Okay, the other one I got says, this comes from @BZWise on Twitter. Is it time to drop? And then he tagged Cam Newton in fantasy. And I could get into a whole rant about how I feel about tagging players in tweets, but I don't know if I would love to because it's something I want to get off my chest and nobody in my real life wants to hear it, but maybe this is
put it on the blog. Don't put it on the podcast. Well, I don't want to see your face because I'll just laugh as you rant. So put it on the blog.
I don't. Well, here's the deal. I don't like it.
No, I don't either. But I don't like the fact that athletes feel compelled to be on Twitter and ever check it anyway because people are just always going to be awful about it.
Well,
But
they probably don't see that, and that
yeah,
puts
no, and this isn't like particularly egregious. Like,
no, 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 no,
hey, I might drop this guy who knows he's not playing well recently. Like,
no.
that's not bad, but like,
I'm sure I'm like 100% positive Cam is not going to see that and be like, this ruined my day. But
no. Like Gerald McCoy might have when he was still using Twitter, but like,
but yeah, it's actually more of what I don't know. You know what? I'm done.
yeah, you're done. It's okay. It's cool. We're fine.
Okay, sorry, my bad. But no, it's not time to drop Cam Newton.
No, yeah, keep Cam Newton.
Too good of a
He's
schedule.
he's too good of a schedule and he's too good of a player. Like, has he been struggling? Yes, but Tom Brady struggled at the beginning of the year and now he's great. Like Big Ben struggled at times this year and now he's fine. Like Big Ben's played the same team twice, Baltimore. The first time he had 6 fantasy points and the second time he had 36. Like you just have to trust that good players are going to have good games eventually and buy into regression. Like if you think that Cam Newton's a bad player, go ahead and drop him. But that's not accurate because he's not a bad football player.
And if you want to read about Cam Newton's struggles, plug. I just put an article up this morning on Black and Blue Review, kind of highlighting some of that. And there are some really interesting screen grabs that I got for that article. So if you want to check that out, it's something. But honestly, like we're all making these grand conclusions. I really don't like making a lot of grand conclusions off a Thursday night game, especially when he was missing 3 of the starters from an already bad offensive line. And yeah, he's not playing well the last 3 weeks, just on his own. He's not playing well, and it stinks because it looked like he was making a lot of progression. But I think he's going to turn around. The schedule's too good. No, it's not time to drop him, and I would still think about trying to trade for him too.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely not time to drop him. Like if you're looking to move away from Cam Newton, I would still try to trade him. If you're at the point where you just will be sick if you have Cam Newton on your lineup or on your roster anymore, like trade him. Don't drop him. Like dropping him's stupid. Like if you want to pick up another quarterback and start them over Cam, like I don't think that that's particularly good roster construction. But if you have to do it to feel better about yourself, like drop Charles Sims and pick up a quarterback because Charles Sims is a rookie, and unless you're in a PPR league, he's not going to have that much value. I could rant about the running backs all day, but whatever. I think that covers it. Don't drop Cam Newton, and still target him in buy low trades, particularly if you're in a deeper league and you have issues at quarterback.
And stop tagging players in tweets too.
Yeah, and don't tag players in tweets. Unless you're like complimenting them, and even then that's kind of awkward.
Even then, it's lame. I think that's almost as lame.
No, it's not. It is lame. Unless it's if it's a legitimate goodwill thing, like I don't mind it. But
if it's to say something directly to them, but if it's like, oh man, I don't. Never mind.
No, yeah, like I'm like.
If it's like a real kiss ass tweet, like that's what I don't like. I don't know.
I could go either way about it, but whatever. The main question we're going to talk about here before we go into Week 10 previews is from Chris. I've never been able to know how to say Chris's name. I've followed him for a while. The Grizzly Beard on Twitter, who I've been in like 17 different MFL 10s with over the past 2 years, and who does stuff over for, I will say our friends, even if, I don't know if Sal considers me a friend, but our friends over at Sportable.
Well, I am Sportable, so.
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't know if he wants you to publicly acknowledge that.
I mean, he put me on the Sunday morning show, so I would hope he wants you to publicly acknowledge that.
But anyway, so Chris tweets and asks, who are some guys that people should look for in a keeper league that could have value next year? And I think that's a great conversation starter that can kind of just get us talking about like how you deal with a losing keeper league team right now, or a losing dynasty team right now. Like how do you approach? And then we'll talk about some guys too real quick that maybe we're looking at. But like how do you approach this time right now? How do you approach this time of are you selling for the future? Are you still trying to like stockpile picks? Are you trading for players? Like, what are you trying to do in a keeper league right now if you're out of the playoffs and are looking to kind of look forward to the future and contend next year?
Keeper leagues are tougher than dynasty leagues, I think, because it's harder because you can't keep your whole roster. With the dynasty league, I really think that it's really, and in both formats, honestly, it's time to really know like what you are. You need to be able to kind of say, okay, I'm a contender or I'm not, and like maybe you're 500, but you ought to know which way your roster is leaning. If you started hot and now all your players are injured, you should have the awareness to say, okay, look, I'm not a contender. I should start building for the future. Start selling older players for picks, or start making deals that are more future based. And if you're a contender, maybe it's time to start dealing some of those picks, unless you're really riding a bunch of old players. Then you want to start dealing some of those picks for future asset or for current assets. I'm in a 2-quarterback dynasty league with my friend Sal and a few of the other guys at Sportable, and I just made a trade with Russell Clay from DLF. I flipped 2/3 and Aaron Dobson for Carson Palmer because I'm a good team, like I'm contending, so it makes sense for me to do that deal. So you need to be making those type of plays, and also when I say you're targeting future guys, you're looking at players that you think you can get kind of on the cheap. And I'm thinking specifically like wide receivers, guys that are bound for a quarterback upgrade next year, like the guys in Tennessee. Maybe you want to buy Justin Hunter, Kendall Wright, because their situation's going to get better, or injured players like Brian Quick. I like if you're a future-based team, maybe you start trying to get some of those assets that aren't going to help you right away, but will help you in the future.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a key thing to start doing right now if you're playing for the future is look for injured guys and look for guys who are due for improvements and upgrades in their offense and their situation, or who are free agents because that's kind of like a wild card.
Yeah, right.
That'll give you that doesn't always pay off. Like sometimes you'll get an Eric Decker who moves to a worse situation, but even still, like he's still been relatively productive, and if you wouldn't have been able to buy him for cheap, but like that's just like as a free agent example. Like it doesn't always work out perfectly, but like right now, like if you can get a guy like Vincent Jackson cheap, like he may not be on the Buccaneers next year. He may go to another team where he is, a much more featured player, and that's more of a keeper than a dynasty because you don't want to invest in Vincent Jackson in a dynasty league. But if you're in like a 5 or 6 keeper league, then that's a guy to do. But like one of the things about the difference here in a keeper and a dynasty is that in keeper, like these deals have to be for big name players because you have to hit that threshold. Whereas in dynasty, like right now, you could go and pick up like Alfred Blue and Lorenzo Taliaferro and Isaiah Crowell and guys like that are like kind of like backup running backs who have a shot at eventually getting the starting job that an owner may just not care about and may want like your quarterback or starting tight end or something in exchange for. Like that's totally cool in a dynasty league. In a keeper league, that doesn't do much unless you're keeping like that many players. Like I don't see any clear breakout running back who's going to be, some like first round or second round pick next year that's not currently valued that high. Like I can't there's not really a guy that stands out as like this is a guy that's going to break out next year. You really want to get him so that you can keep him, for a first or second round pick next year.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's keeper leagues, like I said, are tougher to decipher. I really would encourage people to go full dynasty as opposed to keeper.
Yeah, like the only thing that I like about keeper leagues is when it's like you keep them in the round that you kept them because that provides some strategy to it. Because when it's just like you're forced to keep 3 guys and you lose your first 3 picks, like
that's annoying.
It's just kind of there's not a lot of strategy to it. It's not very fun to me. But
real quick before we move on, or I don't know if we are going to move on, but I just saw something really funny come across.
I could tell.
Yeah. So I don't know if since we talked about last week the Chris Johnson quote. Well, this week we have a great one from Michael Vick. Apparently, he was asked some like long-winded question about the fans being frustrated at John Idzik, and he replied, "Man, that was a tough question. You might want to ask that question to Ryan Fitzpatrick or something. Harvard graduate. Jesus Christ, this is just an interview at my locker." So, just some real great stuff coming out from the Jets these days.
Yeah, the Jets are always fun. Um, like I would take being able, like as a former writer about the Bucks, like I would take the media clips and sound bites you get out of the Jets over what comes out of the Bucks locker room anytime because, like particularly with Lovie Smith, it's
Oh my.
well we're going to go with the guy who gives us the best chance to win this week, and we feel like quarterback position is the strength of our team, and so Josh McCown, like he's a very good football player and he's going to win some like. It's just all it like I can predict half of a Lovie Smith press conference, but in like even with Rex Ryan, like you're going to get him saying something snide or whatever. So
Let's go eat a you know what snack.
yeah, the Jets are great. Like just the fact that the Jets exist is always great.
I'm gonna miss Rex when he gets fired. I hope he gets a public defensive coordinator or a head coach job.
I would take him in Tampa instantly. But I mean, obviously they're not going to get rid of Lovey that quickly, and they probably wouldn't get rid of him for Rex Ryan. But I'd do that in a heartbeat. I guess the problem would be that there's a lot of 4-3 talent on the team already, and he wouldn't necessarily.
And you'd be going to another
play 5-tech.
Gerald McCoy could do anything, I think.
I know, but like
he's perfect as a 3-tech. That's the problem.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
I think he could. Yeah. He could play 5-tech competently, but he's
could Levante play inside in a 3-4?
Yeah, probably. I don't know. He's a little smaller.
Because like Mason Foster can, because he's slow. So that's what all 3-4 players are, right? They're all slow.
They're all there's one slow inside linebacker and one fast one.
Yes.
So there you go.
The SLB and the FLB, the slow linebacker and the fast linebacker. This has nothing to do with fantasy unless you're in an IDP league, in which case Levante David's good. You want him. Let's move on. I think we've answered all the questions. Do you have any more questions on your end?
I think we just got one. Oh no, I'm sorry. This is different. This is a different tweet. Never mind. Go ahead.
Okay.
Let's move on right away.
All right. Yeah. Let's go and let's talk about some of the best matchups this week and things that we're looking at. And looking at my matchups chart here, the best matchups that stand out to me, some of them are ones that are like, duh, obviously, like you would be starting this guy anyway. Like, hey, the Broncos have a really good passing matchup this week against Oakland, as if you weren't already starting Peyton Manning everywhere that you have him. Like, if you're in season long, like whatever, you're going to start Peyton Manning. The Falcons-Bucks game, like both sides of that are awful. Matt Ryan has a great matchup. Like, you want Matt Ryan wherever you can get him this week. But if you have him in season long, you're probably starting him anyway. Cincinnati against Cleveland. Cleveland's pass defense has not been great. And so that's another good matchup. Are there any particular matchups that you are targeting or avoiding from a passing game standpoint this weekend?
Targeting, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of good ones. There's you mentioned the Falcons versus Bucks. That's a good one. There's the Steelers versus the Jets. I mean, oh my God, is Ben Roethlisberger going to throw 6 touchdowns 3 weeks in a row?
The thing is, like, this is a game where like game flow just gets completely beyond like even where Haley is willing to throw all the time. Like, this could be just an ugly, ugly game.
Yeah, exactly.
But you still want to start Ben in season long because he'll still get like 2 or 3 touchdowns for sure. So.
Yeah, and I mean, we mentioned Sanchez. That's a good matchup. The Cardinals against the Rams. Another good quarterback matchup if we're just talking there. Although obviously,
particularly for Carson, not necessarily for Austin Davis as much.
Oh no, yeah, that's what I meant was Arizona against Seattle, and there's a few ones that are just I want to like completely avoid. I think I'm going to completely avoid the Miami-Detroit game.
Yeah, I don't want any part of that for anything. Like, if you've got an either-or question and it involves a Miami or Detroit player, like, I'm saying the other one every time this week.
Yeah, Stafford is the 4th expensive quarterback on FanDuel, too, and I'm like, oh, don't you dare.
No.
Well, he'll probably be the highest-scoring quarterback of the week.
Yeah, like, I'd said that to JJ, my boss at Number Fire, in a chat this week. I'm like, this is like a graveyard of DFS and of fantasy, which means it's going to be like 45-40. Right. But Yeah, that's just an ugly one. And really, the Kansas City Buffalo game is a matchup of two really stingy pass defenses too. But
Yeah.
like if you've got Alex Smith and Kyle Orton, and like you need to start them like in a two QB league or something, like I mean, I guess you kind of have to, but that's not really a great matchup either. And honestly, like I know San Francisco doesn't seem like they're having a great season, but that's still a relatively tough matchup for Drew Brees and the Saints. Like I'm not saying bench Drew Brees, but like maybe in DFS and stuff, like he's not necessarily a great guy to roll out this week.
No, yeah, I agree with that. And same thing on the San Francisco side. I mean, I know New Orleans is like theoretically they're bad pass defense, but they've actually looked halfway decent the past couple weeks.
Yeah, trending upward a little bit for sure.
And the 49ers offense is not very good. Kaepernick gets out of rhythm too easy. Their offensive line's not very good. Their receivers are way too unpredictable unless Anquan Boldin is playing the Rams. So
some of the main guys then that we're looking at, Ben, Carson, and Matt Ryan are kind of the three like not obvious guys that we're really high on this week. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
And Sanchez.
Yeah, and Sanchez. Cam, maybe. Eagles' pass defense is bad, but their offensive line is too bad.
I mean, Eagles are bad from a fantasy perspective, not from a real perspective.
That's what I meant. So, I'm just throwing him out there, but he's not one that I'm going to play. I mean, there's probably going to be a lot of Ben and Matt Ryan for me this week.
We actually did just get another question in from.
Yes, we did.
From Pupak.
Yes.
Pukwandrick on Twitter. One of the Pukwandrick, like, you got to have a little bit of tolerance for the language and stuff on his account. I don't know how much he tweets anymore anyway, but he's the best. Like, I just have to give the not safe for work warning because he just doesn't care, and it's great. But Pupak gave us a tweet. Ceilings and floors for this weekend for Rivera and Daniels. Any better cheap tight ends with high floor?
I'm going to have you recall, it's not this, it's dis.
Oh, yeah. Wow, I didn't even notice that. Yeah,
Ceilings and floors this weekend.
This weekend.
Daniels.
For cheap DFS tight ends. I don't know if I can go down the Oakland route like against Denver, even though like Denver's not a great pass defense. Like I don't think I can bring myself to do that. But do you have any guys this weekend that stand out as a cheaper DFS play at tight end?
Well, just those two. Actually, I think those two are kind of an interesting comparison with each other because I would say Daniels is like the safer one, whereas Rivera is the upside. So since he was mentioning ceilings and floors, I think Daniels probably has a higher floor, and Rivera definitely has a higher ceiling. I actually am forced to start Rivera in one of my Gronk leagues this week. So interesting there. Jordan Cameron was my second tight end. It's like, oh my god, this is disgusting.
Well, I will throw out and shout out to Rich Rebar and Denny Carter and JJ Zacharyson. I'm going to drop a dad runner reference here, and I'm going to recommend Scott Chandler. We did just talk about how that Kansas City Buffalo game is going to kind of be ugly. Kansas City does allow some points to tight ends. That is maybe the one weakness between these two teams is that Kansas City does not necessarily defend the tight end all that well. Kyle Orton is going to get some volume. Like, he's going to throw the ball. It's just going to happen. Kansas City allows that 18th. And they're on the wrong side of average, basically, against tight ends. And Chandler gets decent volume. So it's one of those guys where if he scores, like, he's going to match his price. Other than that, like, there's
Jared Cook was one that stood out to me.
Oh,
it's so gross, but
it never works out. You never get Jared Cook on the right week. Like you just never. You can't.
But he is playing the Cardinals, which isn't like as much of a slam dunk as it was last year, but
yeah.
And
well, how much is he? Because is he actually
on DraftKings? He's like 3,000.
He's min price on DraftKings, yeah.
And on FanDuel, he's 4,800.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, that it's because tight end, like we said this.
Okay, no, wait. I got an even better one here. I think this is the one. Jim Dre against the Bengals. He was pretty heavily targeted last week against the Bucs. and the Bengals are 27th or fifth worst against the tight ends in fantasy.
Yeah, sure.
I think
That's
that might be
really
it because he's min price too. So
I don't know. I mean, I'm almost Larry Donnell's pretty cheap too against the Seahawks, but that's
on
I mean,
DraftKings, he's probably not on FanDuel.
he is well. He's below Rivera on FanDuel,
Oh,
below Vernon Davis and Owen Daniels. Yeah, he's 5,300 on FanDuel actually.
and Seattle is vulnerable to the tight end. So yeah, like I would go Donnell over Rivera.
Yeah, I'm going Donnell in a lot of places this week. Also, I'm in mid writing. I have no idea when I'm going to finish because it's like probably last on my priority list right now is the post for fantasy game plan, the black hole and whatever matchup. One of my black holes is Jacksonville tight ends against Cowboys defense because Cowboys give up a ton. They even gave up a touchdown to John Carlson last week for God's sakes. But I'm not going to like play Clay Arbor this week or something.
Yeah, didn't one of their other tight ends come back too, or is it still just Clay Harbor? I know like Lewis is done for the season, but
is Mercedes done for the? I thought he was on IR recall, but I'm not sure about that.
either way, like I felt like they maybe had some guy come back, but maybe it was just like a bit player. I don't know. Whatever. Regardless, yeah, I'm not using Clay Harbor this week. Not when. Like I think that if you want to go under the radar, completely contrarian, I think Jim Dre is the guy for Cleveland. But Donnell and I would agree that Cook like
Jim
Cook's
Dre
always a
sounds
lottery
like
ticket.
Jim Dre sounds like a vegetable farmer or something, so I'm probably not going to play him.
So Larry Donnell sounds like a certified public accountant. So I think it was Rummy who tweeted that. Like, I need you to stop. You need to put away the QuickBooks and go score some fantasy points. Um,
Oh,
any love from Matt Spaeth? Think he'll grab another long touchdown again? I actually picked him up in that 32-team fantasy league that I'm in. Um, but that's or actually I haven't actually. If somebody wants to steal him now, I guess they can because I put in a claim for him. But
oh no,
yeah, exactly. Oh no, I might lose out on Matt
that'll
Spaeth.
that'll throw your season off right there.
Um, so that's passing games. Let's talk about. Well, I guess we didn't really talk about wide receivers, but it kind of, you know, all the guys that go with those quarterbacks. Like, is there a particular wide receiver that stands out to you as maybe having a particularly strong matchup?
There's totally going to be some lineups I have like in GPPs where I have a Atlanta triple stack where I put because the pricing's not so bad like especially on DraftKings where you can put Ryan, Julio, and Roddy together. So I'm just going to roll with that, see if it works. Torrey Smith I think has a pretty good matchup against the Titans, and I kind of want to play him over Steve Smith at this point. Um, Looking down the rest of the list. The Bears receivers, we mentioned that just on game flow. The Packers receivers, they have a great matchup against the Bears. We didn't mention Rodgers, but that's kind of obvious.
Calvin's price has gone down a
Yes.
lot in DFS, and
He's
some people are probably down
43.
on him.
He's 43 on DraftKings.
Yeah, like
So
Kelvin Benjamin against the Eagles, like that's a
his,
big one for me.
his price keeps going down, and it's like, oh, push me. I'm going to use him every week.
I've been talking a lot about Victiv on Twitter tonight. On Victiv, he's mid-sal,
Damn,
Kelvin Benjamin.
that's nice.
Like, and their mid-sal is 2K. And so, like, he's 7K less than the top wide receivers. So
Oh, yeah.
that's
come on.
a gimme. Like, he catches like 3 passes, and he's made value on that. So,
Yeah.
um,
Ride the
Antonio
Kelvin.
Brown is another one. Like in DFS, like even if you don't think Ben's going to have a huge day for game flow reasons, like who's going to cover him from the Jets? So definitely, reasons to roll with him there. The Miami-Detroit game, like Calvin Johnson's coming back. I may just wait if I have him in season long. I may wait a week, see if he's not a decoy again, and that's a tough matchup anyway.
Yeah, in season long, I would probably play him, but I don't know about DFS.
Well, I mean, it depends on how you've been getting by. Like, I wouldn't start, actually, Andre Holmes or Calvin Johnson this week.
That was literally the one that was in my mind too. I think I'd probably go with Calvin.
See, I would go with Holmes, but I'm a total sucker for Andre Holmes right now. Like, Like Andre Holmes could punch me in the stomach, and I'd apologize. I'd pull a Marcus Mariota. Um,
Oh, that's a good reference.
uh, I wish I had some magical insight on the Bucks wide receiver situation, but I feel like it's going to be relatively unpredictable. But I'd totally be okay with uh, Mike Evans this week.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think Evans is kind of the.
If you've got him. But like McCown is back, and McCown had a really good chemistry with Vincent in like the preseason and the early season. So again, it's one of those things. Like I will say this: McCown returning to the starting lineup is the end of Lewis Murphy because Lewis Murphy was just a Mike Lennon thing. Um, if you're ranking the targets with Glennon, like Murphy was like third. If you're ranking the targets with McCown, Murphy's like sixth or seventh. Like I think he'd rather throw to like O'Neal Cousins, the backup left tackle, than he would Lewis Murphy. So um, if you've got Lewis Murphy, I think that this is the time to cut bait on him and pick up somebody else. But yeah, Evans or Jackson, I think, are fine plays this week. I would probably prefer Jackson if you had to choose, but like prices and stuff on DFS, and obviously you probably don't have both on your roster in season long. So, but I think either one has a fine matchup, and game flow should dictate that they're throwing in this game. So,
Sure thing.
and then let's do running games real quick, and then we'll set our lineup. The Atlanta Tampa Bay game. You want those running games because those are bad run defenses.
I don't want the Falcons running game.
You don't want the Falcons running. The Bucks run defense is good. They're bad against the pass.
I don't want to. I don't want to play guessing games with who the hell is.
Well, if you predicted the blowout, you should get Anton Smith because he's going to score like a 70-yard touchdown.
Right. He's the only one I would play out of him because it's like if I
You might as well, yeah.
Yeah,
That's
right.
true. That's true. The Atlanta running back situation is just such a mess. But like, if you've got Steven Jackson and you need to start him, like, this is the week to do it.
You suck anyways, so sorry.
Bobby Rainey, the clear start in Tampa. Charles Sims is good in a PPR. I wouldn't start him yet.
No.
Unless you had to, but like in a PPR, if you've got him and you don't have better options, roll with him. DeMarco is fine to roll out again this week.
I think he's a guy I'm going to pay up for a lot in a lot of places.
Yeah, particularly since like I think people are going to be worried about him after last week.
Yeah, and there's going to be there's a lot of bargains at at the other positions, especially if you're playing that if you're playing Sanchez and one of the Eagles guys or the Atlanta passing game, then you can there's some good pricing there, so you can squeeze a guy like DeMarco Murray into your lineup.
Definitely. Sorry, I'm going to tweet out the link to the show one more time. Lineups for set our FanDuel lineup here in just a minute because I feel like the running game we'll kind of talk about that as we set the lineup, and I don't want to let this go too long. So
Right.
let's go ahead and do that. We're going to set a FanDuel lineup. We are going to enter. Let me see what I've already got. Because I've already got just a dummy lineup in here with some entries already. We're going to only put $1 on it this week because we've had pretty bad. We're going to downgrade. We've been doing $2 a week. We're only doing $1 this week. The $1, what do they call it? The squib or something? I don't know.
Yeah.
The $1 GBP on FanDuel. So we're going to do like we've always done it and rotate back and forth and make some picks here. Allow me to go first so that I can start this off right.
I'm going to take that as a slight.
It is kind of. Well, it's just to make sure that we build it the way that I think is going to actually get us our first cash. So.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
I hope. We're going to go with Matt Ryan.
Yes. Well, that's what I would have done too. So.
Okay. So, but that'll be my pick. My first pick is Matt Ryan. He's 7,800, which, relatively speaking, let's just put that into perspective. Peyton's 10K. Aaron Rodgers is 9.9. So for 2,000 less or for 3,000 less, 2,000 less. I are good at math. 2,000 less than the top options. You get a guy who could be the QB1 this week in a great matchup. Like if the Bucs keep the game competitive at all, he's going to be the QB1. And his price is just ridiculous.
Yeah, I know. I'm going to go with Julio Jones to put him with. It's a little tighter on on FanDuel than it is on DraftKings.
but not by much.
No, yeah, I mean he's still outside the top 10 price wise of wide receivers.
Yeah, and 1,000 less than Demarius and Antonio, and a great matchup. He played well against the Bucks last time. Like he didn't score the touchdowns because the touchdowns came in some fluky ways, like Devin Hester, like an end around and a return and stuff like that. But like he was still like he dominated the Bucks, and if like I said, if this game's competitive at all, he will do it again.
And I totally don't hate if you want to put Roddy. I mean, I'm not saying in our lineup, like, but I'm just talking to the people in general. Like, if you want to put Roddy in there, I'm totally cool with that too.
Yeah, I've never really had success with the double stack, but I know that people have. Al Smizzle did won a qualifier with a. I think he had that week that Denver went crazy. He had 3 Denver pass catchers, but didn't have Peyton, and won a qualifier, which is just crazy. But like it obviously works. Like if you find the right matchup. I'm not sure with game flow that this is the right matchup to do that confidently because this might turn into a blowout again. So
right.
I don't think it will because the Bucks are at home, but you know.
Yeah, that part does give me a little hope. You know, is that they're not at home so that the Falcons can't just work the Bucks over.
Yeah. All right, well, let's move on to the next pick, and we're going to go with running backs, and it seems too good to be true. This one just seems too good to be true. I'm going with Shady McCoy.
Yeah.
The Panthers have allowed the third most running back fantasy points per game. They rank 23rd against the run in number fires metrics. McCoy is playing under the lights on Monday night with his best guard and Evan Mathis back. He's been trending up, and he's still only 7,700, which is 2K less than Matt Forte. There's no way that value should be that far off. So, like right off the bat, we've got 3 guys who are just blatantly underpriced. Like these guys are priced too low for what they have done and what they will do. He's listed as questionable because he's sick. Definitely nothing to worry about for McCoy, though, in terms of his status for a Monday night game that is, an extra 24 hours, even if he was, missing practice on Wednesday, which isn't a big deal for Monday night guys.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, Shady is, again, he was really underpriced last week, and this week he's underpriced again, and he has a better matchup, so no doubt he's going to be in a lot of my lineups. So that's a good pick by you. Since we've gone, I'm looking at tight ends right now. Tight end is so disgusting.
It's tough. It's tough. I think us pointing out Donnell is probably one of the better plays, and even then, it's not inspiring because the price is still kind of, yeah.
So I'm actually just gonna not do that. Tight end right now, just a short little aside. Tight end is very similar to how we said all preseason. It's either you have these top guys you're gonna pay up for Graham or Gronk, and Julius has even kind of been dicey the last couple of weeks. So it's those guys, or then you're gonna go really off the map to try to talk about Jim Dre, or you can get Travis Kelce and cross your fingers that this is the week he scores a touchdown.
Yeah, exactly.
Because the Chiefs are stupid. But anyways, that's just a short little aside about tight ends. Actually, since we, how do you feel about me putting Antonio Brown in the lineup? Is it just I know he's the most expensive receiver on FanDuel, but just tell me how you feel about it, because that matchup against the Jets. We have some pretty good values.
We're not going to use Macklin because we have McCoy.
Exactly.
Demarius and Antonio are both kind of in the same situation where they're in games that could be blowouts, but I trust the Pittsburgh defense to maybe blow it a little more and keep that game competitive and keep Brown in the game. So.
And Brown just gets fed. He just gets stuffed with targets.
Well, but not in the red zone anymore since Martavis started playing.
Yeah, but he still gets his. He's.
Oh yeah, he definitely does. I don't ever play Brown on FanDuel. I only play him on DK.
Yeah.
PPR.
Yeah, I totally understand.
So that's maybe where
but
I'm gonna fight back, is that I'm not sure he scores a touchdown this week. he may go 10 for 150, which would be great on Fan or on DK. It's not quite as good on FanDuel.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm throwing it out there. Um, Jordy Nelson's a little appealing,
At that price, like
and I
at being
have really
600 less than Antonio, like I would be all for because if you're talking about touchdowns, like I know Randall Cobb has a bunch, but that is due to regress at flip flop anytime now.
yeah. So actually, I think that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna put Jordy in there. I haven't actually put him in any of the just in my little practice lineups or anything. Also, we're not going to do this because I'm sure you're going to fight me on it, but I would consider putting Dez back in a few. Especially, I think he's better priced on DraftKings, but I would consider putting him back in your GPP lineups this week.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you know that they have Fozzie Whitaker's real first name on FanDuel?
Stop that. What is it?
Foswhitt. Foswhitt. So
God.
you could roster like the official Fozzie Whitaker. Like you don't even have to like go for the nickname version. You can get the real Fozzie Whitaker.
Wow. I don't know. I feel a little upset that I know his real name now.
It breaks the illusion.
It does.
Time to make another pick. There's not a lot that's.
You want to pick a kicker?
Like I'm almost tempted to take a tight end just to try and bring our salary down and make sure we're on track.
Well, I don't know. Why don't you pick a kicker just pick the last kicker available, which is actually Matt Bryant. Just so we know we're our price is good. But
I
hey.
don't like in a GPP. I don't like stacking a kicker with offensive players.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Why not? Just a thought.
Because field goals are worth more than extra points, and I don't want field goals if I'm stacking the offensive players from that team.
Right.
Like last week, if you stacked Carson Palmer with Chandler Catanzaro, like you got nothing out of Catanzaro because he only had 3 extra points.
Right.
Whereas you got what you wanted out of Palmer. So if you get what you want out of one, you're probably not going to get it out of the other. Unless you're predicting a blowout in this game, which is fine, but I don't think that you can do that in a GPP safely. I will go with the minimum price kicker, though, and I will take Robbie Gould.
Solid.
Because that offense is still kind of a mess, and like I could totally see Jay Cutler throwing it out of the back of the end zone on 3rd and 20 from the 20, and them kicking a 40-yard field goal multiple times. Like stuff like that will happen. So, and that should be a high-scoring game too. So I'm not convinced that the Bucs game will be all that high-scoring because, like I said, it could get uncompetitive quick. So we'll go with Robbie Gould at 4,500. But I'm almost okay with any of those minimum price kickers. Maybe not Scobie, but.
Yeah.
Murray, Bryant, Folk, and Gold. Like I'd roster any of them in FanDuel.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Let's make that pick together. Let's make a defense pick together too. Let's go ahead and do that. And like right off the bat, like I'm okay with the Falcons defense at Mid-South.
Scrolling to the bottom. Yeah. Oh, there's no one great. It's super cheap. The first one that appeals to me is New Orleans.
See, I'd rather pay one less and get the Falcons.
Really? Well, sure. The count is in there.
But if we're going to pay up, I think that Arizona hosting St. Louis for 5,100 is really nice too.
Yeah, that's a good one. I like that. But
because there's no other, like, unless you want to just pick a random side in the Miami-Detroit game.
No, thank you. Although I actually have done Detroit a little bit.
Yeah, for 5K, but I'd rather pay up for St. Louis because I feel like Austin Davis is due for an implosion at some point, and that running game doesn't worry me. And do you want to go with Arizona as our defense?
I am okay with that.
Okay. So now we got a better idea how much money we have left. We have 6,100 per position left, and we've got running back, wide receiver, and tight end.
Okay. I'm looking at receivers right now. It's cheaper receivers. This is GPP. I mean, there's guys like Devontae Adams, Justin Hunter, but Jordan Matthews. What do you think about Jordan Matthews this week? against Carolina. We already have McCoy, though.
Yeah, we already got McCoy, and yeah,
Torrey Smith at 5,900. I've already mentioned that that's a good matchup. Again, this is.
I think I like Torrey Smith. I think we should go with
Yeah.
Torrey Smith. I think
Okay.
that's a good because we've got two high-priced wide receivers right now in Julio and Jordy, and I feel like that's a good third because he's been getting more involved in the offense, and it's another good matchup. Tennessee allowing the they're a neutral matchup in terms of both real and fantasy points, but
I think cornerback wise, though, Torrey Smith is bound to see more of Wilson, Greedy Way, whatever.
right, yeah, instead of McCourty, right?
Yeah. So I think that's going to be good for him.
Yeah, definitely. McCourty is a really good corner, but which if you believe in narrative street, pretty much only works for Steve Smith, and him wanting to go out and beat a better number one corner. But yeah, so no, that works for me. We'll go with Torrey Smith. Owen Daniels or Larry Donnell at tight end.
Donnell.
Okay. I think that's a good GPP play. I think that's a good. People might not be on him, which leaves us 7,200 for the running back spot. So we may have to shuffle some stuff around here because none of these guys are 7,200. Like Lamar Miller, no. Frank Gore, no.
At our price, I mean, there's Denard Robinson, Bobby Rainey. Those two stick out to me.
I love Denard, and
I'm totally. Hank Jones, we both know Hank. Jacksonville Jaguars draft guy, and he's just sent me some gif of Denard while we were on the show, and some like filthy run that he made. So
how
cool.
about we do this? How about we change our defense and go with Ronnie Hillman?
All right.
Is Monty Ball going to be back?
He has been practicing though. Yeah, but he also did. I mean, he said that Hillman should be. He even came out and said Hillman should be the starter. So I don't know what that says, but he has.
But they're both going to play. Like the good thing about Hillman was that like he's like other than Jawan Thompson or whatever his name is, Jawan Thompson, is that him? But
yes,
other than his like random goal line carries, like Hillman was the guy.
Yeah, and that's the appeal in Jacksonville right now is that Denard is pretty much the guy, even though Toby Gerhardt's got some work in every now and then. I would actually honestly probably rather keep the defense and play either Robinson or Rainey, whichever one is your preference. But that's just me. Feel free to. This is a committee.
Yeah. If I knew Fred Jackson would be back, I would fight for that pretty hard right now.
Yeah, that's not a bad call by you. But yeah,
the participant remains hopeful he can make a return to the lineup. Yeah, still can't. Because I can't go with Rainey in good conscience knowing what I know about this Bucks team. Like it's just too much of a mess and I can't bring myself to do it. So it would be Denard and I don't like that. I don't like the Jacksonville Jaguars to run all that many plays against Dallas with their time of possession and the propensity for turnovers. Like I just don't know how many touches Denard's going to get just by the sheer fact that his offense may not have the ball that long.
Yeah, and he's bound for a lesser week, than he's been having. He's had some 3 really strong games in a row, so I feel like that's kind of bound to come back, and that's a good reasoning why it might is the play count.
See, this is where it gets tough when we're trying to pick a lineup together.
Right.
Let me check one thing real quick here.
Go ahead. I'm still looking at other running backs, and again, nothing is really. What about Chris Johnson at 6,200?
Get out of here.
That's a joke.
I don't even be in the game.
He's not gonna be in this lineup.
What's Bishop Sankey's status right now?
No. Mm-mm. Foot down. Nope. No Bishop Sankey ever.
Okay, and Baltimore is number 1 in fantasy points against.
Yeah, that's not even a good matchup.
I knew it wasn't a good matchup, but Justin forced it?
Yeah, I mean
Tennessee 5th or 25th worst, 8th best in terms of a positive matchup for running backs.
A little nervous about the goal line carries.
Yeah,
And we
but
already
at this point, we're just kind of trying to, we've already got our touchdown scores. Like we've got everyone else on that lineup can score touchdowns. Like at least Forsett kind of gives us just
a floor.
Somewhat of a floor. Yeah.
I'm cool with Forsett.
And that leaves us with money that we could possibly upgrade elsewhere. Well, actually, it also leaves us with 2 Baltimore players.
I feel like those 2 don't necessarily directly affect each other, though.
Definitely not. Because we can upgrade from Torrey, though. And so here's just a couple of the options. We've got Odell Beckham.
Wow.
We could do the Roddy thing. We could do Mike Evans, Anquan Bolden, Kendall Wright, Terrence Williams, Marcus Colston, Allen Robinson, Michael Floyd, Brandon Cooks.
Decker. What about Percy Harvin? Did you mention Percy Harvin?
I'm not going to mention Percy Harvin.
Me neither.
Or Rube, but we got to Nell.
No Rube.
Decker kind of stands out to me a little bit, actually.
I would be okay with Roddy. I would be okay with Mike Evans.
Like I said, I'm worried about McCown with Evans, so I don't think I can improve that. And I'm worried about Roddy in terms of it being a blowout.
I'm not really all that keen on Decker, though. So
Cooks?
Maybe.
No Cooks?
What about Doug Baldwin at 6,300?
Isn't he hurt?
Is he?
He didn't practice.
Okay, it does say questionable. Yeah, you're right. I'm sure people are enthralled at this right now.
Yeah, it's the end of the show. Whatever. You can get over it.
If they've stuck around for this long.
Yeah. You want to just upgrade the kicker?
Well, is there any defenses we could pay up for? I mean, even more so, anything stick out to you there as far as maybe...
Unless you trust Denver on the road.
Well, what about Baltimore against Zach Mettenberger?
I don't feel like that's any better than Arizona against Dawson Davis.
Right. No, just because we have the money.
Particularly without Brian Quick.
Yeah.
I mean, we could pay up a tight end and get Delaney Walker instead of Larry Donnell.
Nah.
Yeah, exactly. That doesn't do anything. We could upgrade Jordy to Antonio, but again, that's kind of what we discussed earlier.
Yeah, I kind of Do you want to just do the triple stack? It's like the Burger King. They used to have those triple stacks, the quadruple stacks.
Actually, let me try this.
Back when I was a little fat kid.
Let me be authoritative here.
You can do that.
How do you feel about Kelvin Benjamin? Do you like Kelvin Benjamin?
I like Kelvin Benjamin.
Okay, I like Kelvin Benjamin too, so we're going to put him in and we're going to change our defense. And we're going to go with the Detroit defense instead, and then we're going to upgrade Torrey Smith to Kelvin Benjamin.
Sounds good to me. Let's
ride. That gets even 0, and we've got Matt Ryan, LaShawn McCoy, Justin Forsett, Julio Jones, Jordy Nelson, Kelvin Benjamin, Larry Donnell, Robbie Gould, and the Detroit Lions defense at home against Miami.
Let's ride the Kelvin coaster into glory.
Yeah.
Or into a burning, fiery mess. Because
I feel like we've got 3 receivers who could all get 2 touchdowns, but Kelvin could also get 2 drop touchdowns. So
that's the Kelvin coaster.
But we'll ride it, just like Genuine said.
Oh, okay.
Pony reference, but
nice.
You can imagine all of the vines on the internet of sports plays being set to Pony here. That's our entry into the Sunday NFL Dive on FanDuel, where we will hope to win $4,000, but probably won't.
That's a good lineup. I really do.
I think it turned out pretty well.
Yeah, I really do like it. I like it.
Let's check again for questions. There are no more questions, so
I thought I
That
did. Oh no, never mind. That was Poopbox. Yeah, never mind.
that pretty much does it. Do you have any other observations, things you've noticed, things you want to say before we sign off?
Um, Stop bickering about stupid things on Twitter. Again, I enjoy. I mean, I love Twitter chaos. Like, don't get me wrong, but please, if you're going to be salty on Twitter, please be creative.
Be
Don't
creative.
be creative. Don't uh, don't go with fake outrage or obviously tag Davis Maddock anytime a short wide receiver plus touchdown. That
See, but
was
I do that.
well, yeah, but I mean, like, if you really do, you're like his friend or whatever, so that's different. But for people like for draft Twitter that wants to be funny, like, come on, creativity. It was cute like the first time.
I guess. Yeah. I will say hashtag free Fitzmagic.
No,
Um,
not on my show.
where's he going to wind up next year and start? You think that
Tampa Bay.
I sign me up. Where do I sign?
You're disgusting.
Oh, that camp battle between Josh McCown and Ryan Fitzpatrick. I will love every training camp I get to go to of that.
That would be a treat.
How about Denver? How about if Peyton retires?
Oh my God!
Little
Oh,
Fitzmagic. Little Fitzmagic to Demarius
just
Thomas.
slaughtering all of the fantasy value there.
Or no, here's what's going to happen. Matt Hasselbeck's going to retire. He's going to go to Indy to back up Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck's going to get hurt. He's going to start like 13 games and be a fantasy relevant quarterback.
Book it.
Dude, like Dwayne Allen with Ryan Fitzpatrick, it would be money.
Oh, he'd have like 100 catches for
Yeah,
sure.
definitely. Definitely. And Reggie Wayne would like unretire so that he could play with Ryan Fitzpatrick. And can you imagine Ryan Fitzpatrick and his beard, like his real beard in those Colts uniforms? Because like Andrew Luck always looks sloppy, but
Yeah.
like me, like right now, like this is kind of an Andrew Luck beard. Like I can't do the Ryan Fitzpatrick. Like that just takes too
No.
much time and dedication for me.
Yeah. I would probably be fired at my job.
Yes, I think most of us would. Um, I think that's it. I think we're good.
I'd say that right.
We'll post the recap on the site, and we'll have the FanDuel lineup there that you can. Oh, that's been another thing. There's been a lot of outrage about shared lineups. If you want to share our lineup, share our lineup. Use it all you want. Use it in every GPP and 50-50 that you want. I don't care. But we'll post it all on the site, which is fantasygamePlan.sportsblog.com. And you can find us there. You can find all of our stuff there and watch the shows. Like you're probably watching the show there right now, so that's cool.
It's real
Matt,
nice.
tell people where they can find what else you're doing this week.
Yeah, so this week I've already posted my breaking down post on Black and Blue Review, which is about Cam Newton. Already talked about that one. I'll have a reception perception article up on Football Guys, and this week I'm doing Martavius Bryant.
I'm pretty sure that there's no U in his name.
Martavius Bryant. I'm sorry.
Like everyone does that though. Like it's one of those things that like
I used to do it right, and now everybody's doing it wrong, and I'm doing it wrong.
like people who put an S on the end of Alshon Jeffrey's name.
Oh well, that's awful. That's like a John Gruden thing. Even though I love John Gruden, but that is
This Alshon Jeffrey's guy, man. He's just there's something really special about this guy, man. I like him. I like this guy. I wasn't trying to do the voice. I was just like,
right.
obviously, there's no way to do a good Gruden voice. His voice is.
He's a one of a kind.
He is. Ryan Fitzpatrick may not be an American treasure, but John Gruden is an American treasure.
Absolutely. And the people that hate him, I hate you.
Go away. Seriously. Yeah. If you don't like John Gruden, go away. Do you like Chris Collinsworth?
I like Chris Collinsworth.
Okay. Yeah.
I think he has good things to say, and
yes.
I mean sometimes he says things of like.
Okay. Top three color commentators. Go.
Gruden, Collinsworth. I'm blanking. Oh, I like no, I don't. I like the guy that does the Fox game that with with what's his name, that old Broncos or Bucks safety, but he's
Burkhardt.
terrible. John Lynch. John Lynch is terrible. I don't like John.
Yeah, John Lynch is he's just super cliche.
Yeah.
You're thinking
There's some.
Burkhardt.
There's some. Yeah, yeah. I like Burkhardt. He's a sharp dresser, so I appreciate him. But what's his name? There's one guy here that does a lot of Washington games. Tim Ryan. He's god awful.
You're just gonna list all the bad ones.
Well, there's so many bad ones, and like
There are a lot of bad ones.
I mean, and honestly, like I don't like people that bash on like Collinsworth and stuff because I'm like, if I talked for 3 hours like straight, I would say so many stupid things, like, and so would everybody else. So.
Yeah. Like, if Mayock were still doing games, Mayock would be my third one here.
I like Mayock.
Because I agree on your first two. I don't know about the order. Like, it's tough.
Phil Simms.
Phil Simms is awful.
Phil Simms is, but yeah, no, but he makes me laugh. But I don't. I mean, obviously he's terrible. So, but
David Deal would be my.
Oh yeah, he's good. He's been really
third. He knows when to shut up. He's very insightful, and like he doesn't talk like you've never watched football before.
Right. He doesn't make you feel stupid.
Like he'll assume some stuff. Like he said during the Bucks game this past week, I believe he referred to a tackle end stunt as a tex, and like 99.9% of the audience is not going to understand what that is, but like he could have said, oh, these guys are going to loop around each other, but instead, like, he just shows, like, hey, I actually kind of know what's going on because I used to block these every day.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just like you get that. It's sort of like when you watch soccer and they say like you watch British soccer and they say like obviously British soccer terms. Like you just feel like they're authoritative when they use like fancy words like that you don't understand. But like when you watch a rugby match and they say like all the words you don't understand in rugby, like you just trust them implicitly. Like Phil Simms never says anything where you're like, oh, I've never heard of that before. Like yeah, he says words that don't make sense, but like he doesn't.
Sounds like your idiot uncle talking about like football.
So
also, how much rugby do you watch?
What?
How much rugby do you watch?
Like I watch it like I don't ever watch like sports shows. Like I just watch live sports. So if rugby's on, I watch rugby.
You need to go outside.
Well, I mean, outside's scary.
There's all those people and
there's people out there
and sounds.
Like cars and
colors,
insects and predators, animals.
Wild.
So
yeah, wild
all
animals.
All sorts of stuff. All right, cool. That's your color comment for all your color commentator fantasy leagues. There's your color commentator rankings for the week. I would put Collinsworth Gruden Deal, but Deal's rising. Like I need to just hear him more because you hear Collinsworth Gruden every week.
He needs to prove it to you.
No, I just need to. Well, yeah, I mean, yes, he does. Rondé Barber's awful, by the way. Like the two former Bucks who do color commentating are both awful. So
I've heard like a few Carolina people that I follow hate Rondé Barber when he calls the Panthers like he's done Panthers.
He gets so either excited or frustrated at things that he just forgets how to talk. Like in a Bucks preseason game, something like they blew a coverage. And he said like the same word 5 times in a row, trying to refine where he was in his statement. Like it's just he's a desk guy. He's not a live guy. Like he's okay on the desk. He's not good live. Which is the problem with a lot of these former players and Phil Simms. Phil Simms,
he's all kinds of awful. But the funny thing about I don't like players like when they come right out of the NFL and go right into the right on.
Well, that's what David Deal is. Which
is shocking.
Yeah.
But like a guy like Hines Ward has been terrible, always will be terrible, and like every time, I mean,
But what does he even do? He doesn't actually do anything.
Like, how much do you think he gets paid to do that?
to do nothing.
To answer like two.
To answer 2 questions and to answer them with no substance, like he didn't prepare for them at all. Like Bob Costas is just lobbing up softballs, and first of all, Bob Costas is awful. Like I could go the rest of my life without ever seeing him on my television again.
Oh my gosh! I don't know if you know Alex Gold on Twitter or whatever, but he had a great tweet that's in my favorites somewhere, like where he said Bob Costas just wants his children to mess up so he can take off his glasses, sigh, and lecture them softly. And I was like, that's a really really good descriptor.
That is kind of yes, that is very Bob Costas.
He's terrible.
Favorite play-by-play guy, and then we'll sign off.
Favorite play-by-play guy?
Yeah.
Well, I've already mentioned Burkhart. He's a snappy dresser. Um,
But
I
you
like,
don't see them, so don't pick it by dressing.
but aesthetics are important to me. You can't tell right now because I just came back. I just came back from the gym, but aesthetics are important.
Okay, because my answer is, now I just forgot his name.
I like Jim Nance. It's unfortunate.
That's what I was going to say. Yes, Jim Nance.
It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that he is.
He's with Phil Simms.
Stuck with Phil Simms.
Jim Nance and John Gruden would be the best combination.
Oh, somebody make that happen.
That would be the best.
Oh yeah.
That would be just absolute best. And then you can just put Mike Tirico with Phil Simms, and I can not care about them at all.
I like Tirico.
I don't dislike Tirico, but he doesn't. I don't think he's good. So I think he's spread too thin. I think he does too many things, and so I hear his voice too much.
Yeah. Well, he does work for ESPN.
Matt Vasgersian used to be my favorite play-by-play guy, but it's mainly just because he called the Bucks' first ever kickoff return touchdown.
Oh yeah.
And the way he called it, I'm pretty sure that as Michael Spurlock entered the end zone, he said Santa Maria, which is a super deep pirate ship sailing cut that was pretty good. And also obviously the expression that you may say if you are whatever. But I think he calls Dodgers games now or something, so whatever. He's abandoned football. Or been demoted from football, either way. That'll do it for this extended episode. See, these are the kind of things that everyone could be asking us, but they're not. So I'm just asking instead.
Well, these are usually unless you hang up the Hangout right as we're getting off. These are usually the stupid
because
things.
I have no idea how to work Google Plus.
Right. These are usually the stupid things we're talking about, as we're getting off the show.
Yeah. And so we might as well, because people are shutting off the podcast. Although apparently one person's still watching. So
whoever is watching right now, please tweet at us. I want to know who you are.
Yeah, definitely.
Unless it's I was gonna say any one of my family members or my girlfriend, but they're the least likely people to be watching. My girlfriend I think she listened to our first podcast for 15 minutes and was like, "All right, that's it. That's all you're ever gonna get."
And I don't have any friends, family, or loved ones because I never go outside. So.
Oh my God, Leo.
No, seriously, that'll do it. For Matt, who you can find on Twitter at MattHarmon_BYB.
Oh, I didn't even put my lower third up tonight.
Yeah, I didn't either.
What personal progress?
I am Leo Howell. You can find me on Twitter at LeoHowell8. You can find me at numberfire.com. You can find me at rotogrinders.com. You can find Matt at footballguys.com, at Black and Blue Review. You can find him at Sportable. You can find him at thebackyardbanter.com.
Yeah, as it's collecting dust,
as it's doing nothing.
Maybe.
And you can find us both at Sportsblog, at fantasygameplan.sportsblog.com. But that'll do it. Tweet at us if you're still watching the show, or if you get to this point in the rewind, if you're watching it on the site. Tweet at us and tell us you got this far, and tell us your favorite color commentators and play-by-play announcers. And the ones you think are the best dressed. Too.
And what decor I could use in my room. Let me know that, too.
You look at this. This is my room. This is not a closet. This is what my room looks like. So.
You poor man.
You are aesthetics Twitter. I am DGAF aesthetics Twitter. I'm the Jay Cutler of aesthetics.
What does that make me?
Okay, we're done here.
All right.
Have a good week, everyone. Tweet us your questions and join us again next week at 9 p.m. Eastern Time for another episode of Fantasy Game Plan Hangout Podcast Show.